Hi guys, DC Toyman again. Thanks again for watching this video, and thanks to those of you who have subscribed. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Green Lantern, John Stewart. He was originally part of a 5-pack with Tomare, Sinestro, Hal Jordan, and Guy Gardner, the DC Universe Classics exclusive Green Lanterns Light action figure 5-pack. He's missing his stand, but he still has the Green Lantern, which is a necessity for recharging his ring, and he also has his gun construct. I love that the construct is a gun because it references his Marine past. Also, the buzz cut references his Marine past. But I also like his architectural constructs as well. That's kind of what sets him apart from Hal Jordan or Guy Gardner. I like the overall look. He has a large lantern crest on his chest. I didn't like it at first, but my daughter convinced me to buy this, and the emblem kind of grew on me. So I'm used to the smaller lantern design from, of course, Hal Jordan. I vaguely remember having a Green Lantern Hal Jordan figure from the Superpowers line when I was young. John Stewart is a Green Lantern, so he has a power ring that's right below. I'll show it to you here soon enough. It can create anything that he imagines using his willpower. It gives him limited invulnerability, flight. He's a former architect, and he's a former Marine, so he has combat training. He's an expert sniper, and his willpower actually exceeds the ring. They show it in Green Lantern Volume 4, Episode 26, or Issue 26, when he tries to create a planet from scratch. That had never been done before, but this guy right here tried it. His enemies include Star Sapphire and Sinestro. Star Sapphire actually murders his wife, Katma Tui, I think is how it's pronounced. Also, Black Hand is one of his enemies, but Black Hand is more of a Hal Jordan villain. The major storylines that he's involved in the New 52, he kills a fellow Green Lantern to prevent him from revealing access codes to the Owen Defense Network, but he was later absolved. His other Green Lanterns stand up for him and go on trial for him. His first appearance was in Green Lantern Volume 2, Issue 87, in December 71, January 1972. One of the early storylines they had was John Stewart trying to stop an assassination on a racist politician, but it turns out the politician had set up the attack for political advantage, and Hal Jordan was hesitant to share duties in Sector 2814 with John Stewart, but he realizes later that John Stewart was helping save someone out in the parking lot instead of helping Hal Jordan at the time, because he knew that the politician had set up the attack. The more I read about John Stewart, the more I respect him. In Aristotelian terms, he would be deemed, I think he would be deemed a virtuous man, but you could say that at the very least he is a continent man working towards being virtuous. He's a man of integrity, and what the virtuous and continent mean, basically he's a man who mostly does the right thing at the right time, in the right way, for the right reasons, versus external motivations. I'll get into that kind of with Batman being, a continent man instead of being a man of virtuous man, which would be a step higher. I think John Stewart and Superman have a lot in common in terms of trying to do the right thing for the right reason, and not because they're worried about how people will view them. I'm used to, like a lot of other people, I'm used to Hal Jordan as the Green Lantern, and that's kind of why I was hesitant to get this figure. But as I said, my daughter convinced me, and I'm glad that we did get it. And I'm also used to Guy Gardner being Green Lantern. It confused me that Guy Gardner was the Green Lantern. He was the only Green Lantern for a while, and I didn't understand that there was an entire Green Lantern Corps, that they were this intergalactic police force. So now I realize that, and when I was young, I liked Guy Gardner because he was a ginger like me, and he was also kind of arrogant. He had an attitude, but as I got older, I realized that I didn't like Guy Gardner because he was arrogant and he had an attitude. He's not the kind of guy that I would want to be in the in a fight with. I wouldn't want him having my back necessarily. Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, on the other hand, are two guys that I would want to back me up in battle, because they're both, as I said, he's a man of virtue, he's a man of integrity. I think Jon Stewart is. Jon Stewart's ring constructs are, of course, more architectural than Hal Jordan's, he being a former architect. And so there's a running joke that Hal Jordan makes boxing gloves. So, of course, the running joke is, another boxing glove, Hal? Try to show some imagination, Hal, come on. But in the Green Lantern Rebirth storyline, Hal Jordan notes that you can see every screw in Jon Stewart's constructs. Nothing he creates is hollow. So he has everything down, packed, actual working, as far as from a drafting standpoint, he has everything in place and with like a working construct. So his constructs are a little bit more elaborate, shall we say. His military ground is not a gimmick. It's part of who he is. That's something that it took me a while to get over to, is that Jon Stewart is a former Marine, but that's not just, a gimmick. It's who he is. He's a good soldier. And again, he does the right thing. He knows how to follow orders, but he knows how to stick with the plan. Even when everything is, going bad all around him, he can stick with the plan. Also, of course, I have to reference this, or I would be remiss. He's not just the Black Green Lantern. I think he's worthy of protecting Sector 2814. I sense that maybe at first this might have been an intention of the creators, although I'm not sure, haven't read as much into that. But the chatter now is that Jeff Johns, who's the chief creative consultant for DC Comics, has not been fair with Jon Stewart, and he's severely underutilized Jon Stewart. But I think it's kind of fair to say that it's probably hard for white men to write women roles and roles for minorities and still have it be authentic and not just a stereotype. So I think that's kind of what they ran into at the beginning. He was a little bit stereotypical. He had an afro haircut, but I think now he's more well-rounded, especially as you start to get into some of the newer storylines and even some of the cartoons, now the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. He has a lot of personal tragedy, Jon Stewart, but he keeps soldiering on. At one point he was paralyzed from the waist down, and Hal Jordan was still parallax at that point, and he offered to give Jon Stewart the use of his legs back, but Jon Stewart doesn't quit. He just keeps going. He could have, retired from being a Green Lantern, but he doesn't, because again, he's a good soldier and he sticks with the plan. He's kind of introspective, he's intelligent and philosophical, but Jon Stewart is also very practical. He's kind of been called the most down-to-earth Green Lantern, and that's one of the reasons, again, why I'm starting to respect him a lot more. In movies and TV, as I mentioned earlier, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. But I didn't realize he was also in that show Static Shock. I didn't know it had anything to do with DC, but it does. He was also in the Young Justice series, which was short-lived, as well as the Green Lantern animated series, which was also short-lived. As far as going back to moral philosophy, again, I think he's more utilitarian. He's kind of trying to do the most amount of good for the most amount of people. There's a lot of talk about green, the color green being the color of willpower. It's in the middle of the color spectrum from the Blackest Night series. Green is kind of equated with human reason and, keeping emotions in check when things are going bad all around and you see your fellow Green Lanterns or fellow whatever it may be. People are dying around you, and this guy sticks with the plan, and he sees the mission through, no matter what it takes, and that's very utilitarian, I would think, of him. John Stewart, again, especially so, he doesn't let the emotions on the color spectrum, because those of you who are familiar with the Blackest Night storyline, you realize that there are orange lanterns, there are yellow lanterns, red lanterns, and each one of them represents a certain emotion on the color spectrum. But the green lanterns represent reason, human reason reigning over emotions. So kind of keeping the emotions in check. It doesn't mean that you don't feel emotions, it just means that you don't let them affect the mission overall. Again, this figure, going back to him, the actual figure, I liked his accessories. And this is another one of those lines where he's very articulated. You can see his ring, as I said. I like the emblem. He has the articulation on his torso. His head is fully movable, and you can see the Mattel sign below. This is where the stand would have been. He has the feet. The one thing that I didn't notice until actually just now, and something that I'll mention with the Sinestro figure later, his boots are just kind of painted on, and I think that's a little bit lazy. With the Superman figure that I reviewed first, it was nice to see that the boots were molded on. But again, we have the same sort of articulation, so I like that. He's not too muscular, but he's muscular enough for someone who was in the military and would have had to keep physically in shape. So he's not overly muscular. I like that his legs and arms and hands, everything moves. And again, just like with the Superman figure, it's a little bit difficult to stand him with the feet being articulated. But I like that he has a wide range of posability. So when my son's old enough to play with these toys, he's not going to care. He's not going to be standing these guys up and displaying them. He's going to be playing with them, and in that case I would give this figure a pretty high review, with the exception of the boots being painted on. His accessories are great. The lantern is really detailed. I like that, and I like that he comes with a construct. And even though I didn't like the emblem at first, I like it now. I like that he has gloves, and the gloves are not just painted on. The gloves are molded, so with that, they, weren't really lazy with that. And this was another one of those figures I bought at half off on free comic book day, so he was about $5 or $6, so it was definitely worth it. Thanks again for watching this video. If you like this video, like it, comment, tell me what you want to see in the future. And next up, I believe, will be Batman. The literature is, again, very dense, but I'll have to condense everything and try to summarize some of the talk around him. Alright, thank you.